They say that a picture is worth 1,000 words, but in my house, one specific portrait was worth $30 million. My name is Avery, and for 10 years, I lived with a snake in my garden, my stepsister, Maya. The day my father's heart stopped, Maya and her mother, Cynthia, didn't shed a single tear. Instead, they produced a legal document that turned my world into ash, a will that left everything to them and left me with a single suitcase and a notice to vacate. They threw me out of my childhood home like I was yesterday's trash. They thought they had won. They thought they were the new queens of the estate. But they forgot one thing. My father was a man of puzzles. He always told me that the truth is never on the surface. It's always hidden behind the frame. Today, Maya is throwing a lavish engagement party in my house, using my money. But I'm coming back with a guest they didn't invite, the truth. And by the time the champagne is poured, Maya is going to find out that a fake can't protect you when the real one finally speaks. Welcome to ThreadVerse. My father, David, was a man of steel and ink. He built a real estate empire from a single blueprint. When my mother passed away, he was lost in a sea of grief, and that was when Cynthia stepped in. She was the perfect sympathizer, quiet, helpful, and always there with a glass of wine and a listening ear. She brought her daughter, Maya, who was exactly my age. At first, we were a family, or so I thought. But as the years went by, the mask started to slip. Whenever my father was away on business, the mansion changed. The laughter died down, replaced by Cynthia's sharp orders and Maya's quiet, calculated bullying. You really think you're special, don't you, Avery? Maya whispered to me one night in the library. She was looking at my father's portrait, a massive oil painting that hung above the fireplace. You think all of this belongs to you just because of your blood, but blood can be replaced. Influence is what matters. I ignored her. I thought my father saw through them. But then, his health began to fade. It was sudden. A heart condition that the doctors said was manageable, but Cynthia insisted on managing it herself. She fired the family's long-term physician and brought in a specialist of her own. The day my father died, I wasn't allowed in his room. Cynthia blocked the door, claiming he needed absolute rest. By the time I forced my way in, he was gone. His eyes were closed, and his hand was resting on a small, old photo of me and my mother. I didn't have time to mourn. Within 24 hours, Cynthia called a meeting in the grand study. She sat behind my father's desk, the seat she had been waiting for 10 years to take. David left a revised will. Avery, she said, sliding a document across the mahogany surface. Her voice was cold, devoid of the warmth she'd performed for a decade. He felt that your impulsive nature made you unfit to manage the estate. Everything, the house, the trust, the properties, has been left to me and Maya. You were granted a one-time payment of $10,000 in 48 hours to remove your personal belongings. That's a lie, I whispered, my hands trembling. My father would never do that. He talked to me about the succession just last month. The document is notarized, Avery, Maya piped up, leaning against the doorframe with a triumphant smirk. It's legal. It's final. Now, if you'll excuse us, we have a lot of redecorating to do. This house is far too old-fashioned. The next 48 hours were a blur of humiliation. Cynthia and Maya didn't just want me gone. They wanted me broken. They stood over me while I packed my life into 2 suitcases. Maya even had the audacity to go through my boxes, picking out jewelry that belonged to my mother. This pearl necklace? It looks better on me anyway, Maya said, clasping it around her neck. Consider it a storage fee for all the years we had to live with you. I left that house with nothing but my clothes, my laptop, and a small, framed photo of my father. As I walked down the long driveway, I looked back at the mansion. I saw them standing on the balcony, champagne glasses in hand, waving a mock goodbye. I moved into a studio apartment that smelled of old cigarettes and regret. The $10,000 barely covered the deposit and 6 months of rent. I spent my days at the library, researching the notary who had signed that revised will. Mr. Sterling, yes, the same family lawyer from my childhood, had been retired by Cynthia months before the death. The new notary, a man named Henderson, was a shadow. Every time I tried to track him down, I hit a dead end. But in the middle of the night, when the silence of the apartment became too much, my father's voice would echo in my head. He used to sit me down in front of that massive portrait of himself in the library and say, Avery, people will try to take what we've built. They'll look at the walls, the gold, and the fame. But the real treasure is never on display. If you ever lose your way, remember, the truth is always behind the frame. At the time, I thought he was being poetic. I thought he meant I should look into my own heart. But as I sat in my tiny kitchen, looking at the small framed photo I'd saved, I noticed something. The backing of the frame was thick, thicker than it should be. I grabbed a kitchen knife and carefully pried open the back of the small photo frame. My heart stopped. Inside wasn't a document, but a small, silver key with a tag that had a single number written on it, 842. It wasn't a bank vault key. It was a key to a specialized safe deposit box at an old architectural firm my father used to partner with. The architectural firm was a relic of the past, tucked away in the old district of the city. When I walked in with the key, the old clerk, a man who had known my father for 30 years, looked at me with tears in his eyes. "He told me you'd come, Avery," the clerk whispered. "He said if things went the wrong way, you'd find the key." He led me to a private room and brought out a heavy metal box. I turned the key. Inside were 3 things. A digital voice recorder, the real last will and testament, dated only 3 days before his death. A thumb drive labeled security footage, library. I played the recorder first. My father's voice, weak but clear, filled the room. "Avery, if you're listening to this, Cynthia has done exactly what I feared. She thinks she's clever, bringing in her own lawyers and drug doctors. She doesn't know I saw her and Maya forging the papers in the study. I couldn't stop them. My body is failing, but I could hide the truth. The will in this box is the only legal one. And the thumb drive? It's the video of them signing the fake one while I was unconscious in the other room. But don't go to the police yet. Let them get comfortable. Let them show the world who they are. Wait for the engagement party. That's when Maya will try to solidify the Sterling Vanguard merger. That's when you strike." I felt a cold, architectural rage settle over me. Maya was planning a massive engagement party to celebrate her betrothal to Julian, the son of a billionaire investor. She wanted to use my father's estate as leverage for a merger that would make her the most powerful woman in the city. The party was in 3 days. I spent the next 72 hours working with Mr. Sterling, who had come out of retirement the moment he saw the real will. We didn't file the papers. We didn't alert the authorities. We waited. I bought a dress. Not a simple black one, but a dress that commanded the room. The same color as the velvet curtains in my father's library. "The demolition is ready, Avery," Mr. Sterling said as he handed me a legal folder. "Are you ready to pull the trigger?" "I'm not just pulling the trigger, Mr. Sterling," I said, looking at the security footage on my laptop. "I'm bringing the whole building down." The David estate had never looked more beautiful or more hollow. Hundreds of fairy lights were draped across the ancient oak trees, and the driveway was clogged with luxury cars. Inside the mansion, the air smelled of lilies and expensive perfume. Maya was in her element. She was wearing a dress that cost more than a teacher's annual salary, parading around Julian, her billionaire fiancé, as if she had personally built the empire she was currently exploiting. Cynthia was standing near the grand staircase, holding a glass of vintage wine, accepting congratulations from people who had once been my father's closest friends. They didn't know they were congratulating a thief. I stood at the gates, the cool night air hitting my face. I wasn't the broken girl who had walked out of here with 2 suitcases. I was wearing a deep emerald green dress, the exact color of my mother's eyes. In my hand, I clutched a sleek, black leather folder. Behind me, hidden in the shadows of a nondescript sedan, were Mr. Sterling and 2 men from the district attorney's office. "Wait for my signal," I whispered to the headset. I walked up the front steps. The security guard, a new hire who didn't recognize me, tried to block the path. "Invitation, please?" "I don't need an invitation to enter my own home," I said, my voice steady and cold. I brushed past him with such authority that he hesitated just long enough for me to reach the grand foyer. The music was a soft, classical piece, but it felt like a funeral march to me. I walked straight into the ballroom. The chatter died down as I moved through the crowd. People began to whisper, "Is that Avery? I thought she was gone. Look at that dress. She doesn't look like she's struggling." Maya was standing on the small stage at the end of the room, about to make a toast. She saw me, and for a split second, her mask of perfection cracked. Her face went from triumphant to murderous in a heartbeat. "Avery," Maya's voice boomed through the microphone, dripping with fake sympathy. "Everyone, look who's here. My poor, troubled sister has decided to join us. I suppose the $10,000 ran out faster than you expected?" The crowd chuckled nervously. Cynthia moved toward me, her eyes narrowed like a viper. "Avery, leave now. This is a private event. Don't make me call security and have you dragged out in front of everyone." "Oh, I'm not leaving, Cynthia," I said, stepping onto the edge of the stage. "I'm here to contribute to the celebration. After all, an engagement is about building a future, right? But you can't build a future on a foundation of lies." "What is she talking about?" Julian asked, looking confused. "She's delusional, Julian," Maya hissed, grabbing my arm. "Security, get her out of here. Touch me again, Maya, and the police waiting outside won't be as polite as I am," I whispered. I pulled the black folder out, and held it up for everyone to see. You all think you're here to celebrate a merger, but you're actually here for a demolition. I didn't wait for them to respond. I walked over to the AV booth, the one they were using to show a slideshow of Maya and Julian's love story. The technicians started to protest, but Mr. Sterling stepped out of the crowd, looking every bit the formidable lawyer he was. "I am the legal representative of the David estate," Mr. Sterling announced, his voice commanding the room. "And we have a presentation of our own." I slid the thumb drive into the console. The giant screens at the end of the ballroom flickered, but it wasn't photos of Maya and Julian. It was a grainy, high-definition security feed from my father's study. The timestamp was 3 days before his death. The room went deathly silent. On the screen, my father was lying in his chair, unconscious or heavily sedated. Cynthia was standing over him, holding a pen. Maya was next to her, giggling as she guided Cynthia's hand to forge his signature on a document. "Is the notary ready?" Cynthia's voice came through the speakers, crystal clear. "Henderson is in the pocket, Mom," Maya's voice replied on the video. "He'll sign anything for 50 grand. Once this is done, the brat is out, and the empire is ours." The gasp from the crowd was like a physical wave. Julian stepped back from Maya as if she were radioactive. It's a deep fake." Cynthia screamed, her face contorting with rage. "She's a tech person. She made this to ruin us." "If it's a fake, Cynthia, then explain this," I said, pulling the real will from the folder. "The last will and testament of David Avery, dated after your little forgery." It was hidden behind the frame of his portrait, the one place you never bothered to look because you were too busy looking at the gold leaf on the walls. I looked up at the massive portrait of my father that hung above the fireplace in the foyer, visible through the open ballroom doors. "My father knew you'd try this. He spent 10 years watching you snakes crawl through his halls. He didn't drug himself, Cynthia. You did. And we have the toxicology report from the private autopsy I commissioned the day I left." Maya tried to lung for me, her nails like claws, but the 2 men from the DA's office stepped out of the crowd and intercepted her. "Maya David? Cynthia David?" the lead officer said, pulling out a pair of handcuffs. "You are under arrest for fraud, forgery, and the suspicion of elder abuse and endangerment. You have the right to remain silent." As the handcuffs clicked shut, the silence in the room was absolute. Maya was screaming, her expensive dress torn as she struggled. Cynthia was silent, her eyes fixed on the floor, knowing that the empire she had stolen had just turned into a cage. An hour later, the mansion was empty. The fairy lights were still twinkling, but the guests had fled like rats from a sinking ship. Julian had left without a word, his family's lawyers already working on a press release to distance themselves from the David scandal. I sat in my father's study, the room where the betrayal had happened. Mr. Sterling sat across from me, sipping a cup of tea. "You did it, Avery," he said softly. "The house is yours. The trust is intact. The banks have already frozen their personal accounts. It doesn't feel like a victory yet," I said, looking at the empty chair where my father used to sit. "Victory isn't a feeling, Avery. It's a structure. You've cleared the debris. Now you have to decide what to build." I walked out to the foyer and stood in front of the massive portrait. I looked at my father's eyes. Now I understood what he meant. He hadn't just hidden the will behind the frame to keep it safe. He had hidden it there to ensure I would have to look at him, to really see him, before I could claim my inheritance. I reached up and touched the bottom of the heavy, gilded frame. I felt a small latch I hadn't noticed before. I clicked it. The entire portrait swung open like a door. Behind it wasn't a safe. It was a small, walk-in room, a secret archives. Inside were shelves of journals, every single one of them filled with my father's handwriting. He had documented every time Cynthia had tried to manipulate him. Every time Maya had been cruel to me. He hadn't been oblivious. He had been a witness. On the desk in the center of the secret room was a single letter addressed to me. "Avery," it read. "If you are reading this, you have proven that you are not just my daughter, but my legacy." You looked behind the frame. You saw the truth when everyone else only saw the image. Use this wealth not to build walls, but to build bridges. And remember, the strongest foundation is one that is built on the truth, no matter how much it hurts to dig it up. I love you. I sat on the floor of that secret room and finally cried. Not for the loss, but for the clarity. The demolition was over. The site was cleared. And for the first time in 10 years, I knew exactly what I was going to build. They say that stone walls do not a prison make. But for Maya and Cynthia, those cold, cinder block walls were the only honest things they had encountered in years. The transition from silk sheets to a thin, plastic-covered mattress in a county jail cell was more than just a change of scenery. It was a violent structural collapse of their entire reality. I visited them 1 week after the arrest. Not because I wanted to gloat, but because an architect always inspects the site after a controlled demolition. I wanted to see if the foundation of their arrogance had finally cracked. Maya sat behind the plexiglass, her skin sallow without her expensive foundation, her hair matted and greasy. The orange jumpsuit she wore was a far cry from the emerald gown she had paraded in at the party. When she saw me, her eyes didn't fill with regret. They filled with a desperate, feral rage. "You think you've won, Avery?" Maya hissed, her voice cracking. "My lawyers will have me out by Monday. This is all a misunderstanding. That video was manipulated, and you know it. Our fake will is just as valid as your supposed real will." "Your lawyers, Maya?" I asked, leaning into the microphone. "The same lawyers who stopped taking your calls 3 days ago?" Mr. Sterling informed me that because your personal accounts were funded by the David estate through fraudulent means, those funds have been clawed back. You're currently being represented by a public defender who has 100 other cases on his desk. He doesn't care about your status. Cynthia sat next to her, looking hollow, her gaze fixed on the floor. She knew. She was old enough to understand that when the inheritance is proven to be stolen, the law doesn't just take the money, it takes your future. "The portrait, Avery," Cynthia whispered, finally looking up. "How did you know?" "He told me he destroyed the real will. He promised me we were safe." "He knew you were listening, Cynthia," I replied. "He gave you the answer you wanted to hear, so you'd stop looking. He knew that if he hid it behind his own face, you'd never find it. Because you never actually looked at him. You only looked at what he could give you." As I walked away from the visiting booth, the sound of Maya screaming my name echoed through the hall. It was a hollow sound. The sound of a building finally hitting the ground. Karma wasn't just a concept anymore. It was the bars on their windows. While Maya and Cynthia were learning the hierarchy of the prison yard, Mr. Sterling and I were busy with the surgical task of asset recovery. The stepsister had spent nearly $3 million in the few months since my father's death. Most of it was gone, spent on luxury cars, a fleet of influencer assistants, and that disastrous engagement party. "We've managed to recoup about 60% through the sale of the luxury assets," Mr. Sterling said, laying out a spreadsheet in the library. "The jewelry you found in Maya's room has been appraised. Most of it was your mother's, Avery. It's back in the family vault." I walked over to the fireplace and looked up at the portrait. It was back in its place, but the secret door behind it was now a permanent office for me. "I don't want the money, Mr. Sterling," I said. "Not for myself. I have enough for my own career, and the estate's properties generate more than I'll ever need. I want to talk about the David Foundation." "Your father's dream," Mr. Sterling nodded. "He always wanted to turn this estate into a sanctuary for young architects and artists who had the talent but lacked the pedigree the industry demands." "Exactly," I said. "I want to convert the West Wing into dormitories. The Grand Ballroom, the place where Maya tried to cement her lie, will become a public gallery. We're going to use the inheritance to build something that isn't a cage. We're going to build a bridge." But before I could start the foundation, I had one last piece of the past to settle. I had discovered that Henderson, the notary who signed the fake will, hadn't just disappeared. He was hiding in a small town in Nevada. With the evidence from the secret room behind the portrait, the FBI had picked him up. His confession was the final nail in the coffin. There would be no trial. Maya and Cynthia took a plea deal. 10 years for Cynthia, 7 for Maya. They would be gone for a long time. The inheritance trap they had set for me had turned into a permanent residence for them. 6 months later, the David estate was no longer a fortress of exclusion. It was a hive of activity. The David Avery Foundation for Creative Architecture was officially opening its doors. I stood in the foyer, watching the first group of scholarship students walk in. They were kids from all walks of life, some from the inner city, some from rural towns, all of them carrying portfolios filled with dreams. I had kept the portrait exactly where it was. It was the centerpiece of the gallery, but I had added a small plaque beneath it. It didn't mention the fake will or the scandal. It simply said, "Look behind the frame. The truth is the only foundation that holds." Julian, Maya's former fiancé, had sent a massive bouquet of lilies for the opening. I had them sent straight to a local hospital. I didn't need his flowers, and I didn't need his billionaire connections. I had built this with the truth my father left me. As the sun began to set, casting a golden light through the library windows, I sat at my father's desk. I opened the last journal I had found in the secret room. It was the one he had written in the night before he passed. "Avery," the entry started. "Tonight, I watched Maya try to steal my watch while she thought I was sleeping. It's a small thing, but it confirms the rot. I am tired, my girl, but I am not afraid. Because I know you have the eyes to see. You won't let them win. You will take this house of glass and turn it into a house of stone. Build well, my daughter. Build for the ones who have no home." I closed the book and looked up. For the first time in 10 years, the house felt light. The shadows of the stepsister and her mother had been swept away, replaced by the sound of students laughing in the hall and the scratching of pencils on drafting paper. I wasn't just the girl who had been evicted. I was the architect who had returned to fix the structure. And as I looked at the portrait, I realized that the real inheritance wasn't the millions in the bank or the acres of land. It was the clarity of knowing exactly who I was, and the strength to protect the truth at any cost. They say that a building is never truly finished, it simply evolves. My name is Avery, and today, I am walking through a house that finally belongs to the world. Maya and Cynthia are names that have become footnotes in a legal textbook, a cautionary tale about the weight of a fake will and the inevitable pull of karma. I still visit the library every night. I still click the latch on the portrait just to hear the sound of the secret door opening. It's a reminder that even when the world seems dark and the people you trust turn into strangers, there is always a frame of truth waiting to be found. The inheritance didn't change me, it liberated me. And to anyone out there standing in the shadow of a lie, wondering if the truth is worth the fight, look closer. The frame is thinner than you think. Build your life on the real will of your heart, and the structure will never fall. Welcome to the new David estate. Welcome to the truth. This is ThreadVerse. Thanks for staying with us for this incredible journey. Avery's story is a masterclass in patience and poetic justice. It reminds us that no matter how deep someone buries a lie, or how many fake wills they forge, the truth has a way of breathing through the cracks. Maya and Cynthia tried to steal a legacy, but they ended up with a life sentence, proving that karma is the most precise architect of all. If you felt that chill when the real will was revealed behind the portrait, do me a huge favor, smash that like button. It helps ThreadVerse bring more stories of justice and ultimate revenge to people who need to hear them. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We're building a community here where truth matters, and we have plenty more stories coming your way. Before you head out, I want to hear from you. What would you do if you found a secret room in your family home? What's the biggest secret you've ever uncovered? Drop a comment below. I read every single one. Stay loyal, stay sharp, and always remember, never trust the surface. Always look behind the frame. I'll see you in the next one.